It's a minute after noon, and today is Wednesday, it's the 2nd of February, and this is The Bridge 99, and the program is The Public Eye. Thanks very much for joining us. I'm Ronnie Thwaites. I've been doing this for years, but it's a pleasure to do it in a different way now, and that is to speak to the diaspora, Jamaicans everywhere, anywhere. People united just by their fascination about the people, about the land called Jamaica, the nation, the community called Jamaica. Well, we are celebrating Black History and Reggae Month in February, and so we welcome you to this program. We bring the issues straight to you. No slander, no gossip, just facts. We don't take a narrow view on public issues. We continue to explore many societal problems with an open mind and seek to find solutions. We want to educate you where we can, inform you first on a variety of things that are of great importance to improving life in our country. This morning on Early Rise, my co-host Chief Colonel Charles and I had a very interesting discussion with, can you imagine, there's a Jamaica Association in Switzerland, far off Switzerland? My goodness. Dr. Warren Wallace was with us. He told us of his journey. Jamaicans go anywhere opportunity lies, He left from Calabar, went to Canada, finds himself resident in Switzerland, and him one. There are Jamaicans all over that country as well. Which country is it? Is it otherwise? Tell me if you know. Call us if you can. The numbers are 876-551-5782. That's the WhatsApp and text line. And the studio line is 876-676-4996. The Bridge 99 FM. 99.1 3579 and live streaming www.thebridge99fm.com. A new concept in radio. First purpose, reach out to the diaspora. Today, during our feature, prized feature by the way, Educate Jamaica, we'll be joined by Dr. Tamika Benjamin, who is the mathematics coordinator in the Ministry of Education. And I see a new ascription to her, Tertiary Support Officer, and Assistant Chief Education Officer, and the National Science Coordinator, Mr. Sadpha Bennett, and Mrs. Stacy Witter-Bailey. So those are three members of the hierarchy of the Ministry of Education, and they're going to be talking about the National Extra Lessons and Homework Program in preparation for the PEP exams 2022. Now, I know of how many people are listening abroad, whatever time of day you tune in, yes, where you're able to hear, and you are supporting a child or you have one of your own, you're there and the child is here, and you know how much they've missed, and you know the need to back it up, and therefore to understand what the government is able to do by way of extra lessons, by way of homework preparation that can help your child, despite the long gap, to do better. So that's an important feature. We never hesitate to advance education in all of its aspects, all of its ramifications, here on the Public Eye, here on the Bridge 99. In the Global Connection Hour, which is when we join Irie Jam in New York, Professor Basil Wilson, retired Provost of the John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York, a Jamaican, a Thwaites man. He'll join us to talk about the state of the U.S. economy and offer an assessment of Mr. Biden's presidency thus far. I'm disappointed. Are you? How can it change? Basil Wilson usually has very well-informed, cogent views. We'll also have our usual New York connection with Beau-regard from the studios, as I mentioned, of Irie Jam. So please join the Bridge Nation conversation on the Public Eye. So, when we come back from the break, it's time for Educate Jamaica, and keep your dial locked to 99 FM. Follow the Bridge Nation on Instagram at the Bridge 99 FM. Please share your comments using the hashtag Public Eye Open Mind. We'll be right back in a moment. Educate Jamaica coming up. Of interest to all of our people in the diaspora. You know how many people listening to us today whether in the US, Canada, or in England, or wherever we are. Yes, you go there because you want to support a child or children, maybe a member of your family, maybe somebody from your district who you know needs support, and you are enduring the winter. You're probably handling 2 or 3 jobs. You are sacrificing yourself in order that children may do better back home in Jamaica. One of the things that we need to study and quantify more is the amount of resources, both in cash and in kind, that people in the diaspora send for the purposes of education. We know it's plenty, but we really haven't been able to quantify it. It would be very difficult to do so. That's why we feel on the public eye and on the bridge that it's very important to keep our Jamaicans in the diaspora entirely up to date with what's happening in the crucial area of education. Things are getting better. The children are able to go back to school now, many more of them. I know most of the high schools are simply saying, look, it's time that everybody come back, and not come back carelessly, but come back with the proper protocols and efforts to keep safe, encouraging the older ones to get vaccinated. Selfishness if you don't, unless you have a very good reason, But important that we elevate the practice of education, understand, which is what our topic is going to be in a little while, understand how much we have lost and how much we have to catch up. If we deceive ourselves on that subject, we're going to be selling ourselves very, very short. So let's just be very clear on how we go. There's nothing else in Jamaica that can take precedence over a replete education system where the skills of our people are being honed and where the attitudes of our children, so deficient because of long periods of idleness, can be reformed, can be reshaped. That's the crucible. When you're considering, sending some of your remittance home, make sure that you devote it to education, and make sure that it's not just some money you send or some uniforms in a barrel or the pretty school bag, but ask about the child's progress. Check with the teachers. Now technology allows you to keep a constant monitoring of your child, of your ward. That's a key thing. No matter if it's not your picnic, if you can help any picnic, that is a worthwhile act for people in the Jamaican diaspora. Let me say to you that the public education system, with the best intentions in the world, cannot alone finance the best education for our children. Just can't. And so it's extremely significant what you're doing. The news this morning is that the remittances have gone beyond $3 billion last year. How much of it for education? How much of it, even that which is going into various aspects of education, is it being spent efficiently? Is it being deployed in a way that we're going to see the results, not only in PEP standards, not only in STEM results or CSEC or CAPE, but rather in the proper adjustment, the manners, the behavior, the care, the generosity of spirit that makes Jamaica great. So this morning, for example, we were talking with those far away who not only have adopted the character and carried it from Jamaica, but who it's very, very important, have attained from Jamaica a grounding that has allowed them to achieve great levels of expertise. Education at Calabar took Dr. Wallace to Toronto, yes, where he completed his basic studies, has taken him now to Switzerland, yes, where he holds a very illustrious position. That's the quality of Jamaican education, which we want for all. Time now for Educate Jamaica. Hello, Dr. Benjamin.
Good morning.
Afternoon.
Good
Grateful
afternoon,
again. Yes, happy to have you. The National Mathematics Coordinator, Dr. Tamika Benjamin. Hello, Mrs. Witter-Bailey. Glad to know you. Is she there?
Hello, good afternoon,
Thank you.
Thwaites.
Pleasure. Deputy Chief Education Officer. And fancy meeting Mr. Bennett again. Hello, Mr. Bennett.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Happy to have you
Thwaites.
with us again. The man from Content Gap. You think I don't know your origins? Been following Mr. Sadpha Bennett throughout all of his career. Thank you very much for joining us on Educate Jamaica. As you know, this program is geared particularly to people in the diaspora who support our children in so many different ways, as you will acknowledge, and who need to hear from the authoritative sources how we're doing in various aspects. Now, we know we've lost a lot of time. We know we have to make up. Dr. Benjamin, will you start? What is the National Extra Lessons and Homework Program? Describe that for us. Is she there?
Okay. Are you hearing me?
We're hearing you well. Go ahead.
Great. So thanks again for giving us this opportunity to share. The National Extra Lessons Program is a part of the National School Learning Intervention Plan, which is our main means of responding to the pandemic and ensuring that our students are given the extra opportunity to catch up or to fill the gaps that would have been created from the disruption to formal teaching and learning in terms of face-to-face interactions.
Yes.
So in addition to the intervention support that we expect to be provided at the school level, we recognize that some students will need additional support. And so we provided this extra lessons program as a means of extending the school day, or providing additional opportunities for contact hours with a teacher, focusing particularly on the core subject areas.
The core subject areas being literacy, mathematics
and language literacy for grades 1 to 3,
right.
And for grades 4 to 6. We will also include science and social studies.
Yeah.
For grades 7 to 9. We will also we'll do math and English and science.
Yeah.
And for grades 10 and 11, there's an opportunity for the schools to consider where the students are with respect to the subjects they're preparing to sit for CSEC or City and Guilds. But for all of those students, they should get math and English support if needed.
Yes. Mrs. Witter-Bailey, what happens if it's all of the students who need some kind of support? Can you accommodate them? Can we stretch? We have to, you know.
We do our very best to ensure that all students who require special accommodation, we work with the special education unit to evaluate those reports, and we do our very best to ensure that every single child who needs it gets the necessary accommodation.
It's up to the individual school, is it, ladies and gentlemen? It's up to the individual school to determine how many children have dropped back, if they have, and how many need to be picked up by this program. Is that the rubric?
To an extent, they will be guided by the results of the diagnostic tests, which we would have developed and administered. So in essence, we know those students that we're trying to target, or we need to target already, because the data has already been generated.
Okay.
We offer the opportunities in 2 modes. We have an online modality, and those who can will access it. And the beauty with that is that it's independently driven. So students can access anytime, any day, and for as long as they need. But for those who don't have access to the internet or don't have the devices, the opportunity will be driven at their school in a face-to-face modality.
Mr. Bennett, how are we going to teach science at extra lessons? How are we going to help the children to improve their performance in homework, etc.? Have you worked that out?
Okay, well, as it relates to the science and improving student performance, as the face-to-face component of school becomes more prominent, then teachers will interact with students more in small groups. So for the sciences, we're really depending on, going back to that kind of interaction. There are some skills.
Losing Mr. Bennett. Hoping we can. Yes, here we go. Go ahead, sir. What happens to science when the technology gets frozen? My goodness, we have to chuckle with each other. Are you there, Dr. Benjamin?
I'm here, and
Okay.
I think where Mr. Bennett would have gone is that
Yes,
one
tell
of the
us.
challenges we would have faced with the disruption to teaching and learning in a face-to-face modality would have been the fact that some skills,
Right.
and I think it's not just science, but certainly math as well. Some of those skills and practices that undergird teaching and learning are really difficult to develop in an environment that is that's virtual.
Yes.
It's a challenge. And so the opportunity to be face-to-face will allow us to engage students in some of the activities that are embedded in the curriculum, will allow teachers a lot more flexibility in meeting needs when they identify the gaps in the classroom.
Yes. So how is it going to work, Mrs. Witter-Bailey? Is it going to be a time after the regular school day? Are teachers going to be compensated to spend time helping my grandchild do their homework if they need that help, or going over the lessons that they might have missed over the many months of absence? How does it go?
Well, the extra lesson program is, the design of that program is intended to have students who, especially the ones who need that extra help, to enroll in that program. Teachers will be compensated for their extra time used to help those students. So once the students are identified as students who need intervention and need to be taken from point X to point Y for improvement, they will be gladly accepted and enrolled in the program, and the teachers definitely will be compensated for their time shared.
Going to need more details in a while, but I believe Mr. Bennett is back with us, hopefully. And Mr. Bennett, I know we have a shortage of teachers in science. Do you have enough to go around for those students who will really be needing an upgrade in those subjects? And perhaps you can tell us too what elements of science that are going to be a part of this homework program and extra lessons. Is it integrated science, or are you going to go into the specific disciplines, for example, of the natural sciences?
Okay, no, as it relates to the science, the homework program at the primary level,
yes,
we'll focus on just the integrated science, which is done at the national standards curriculum
levels.
And again, that we hope to drive through training for the teachers and have the teachers do those activities with the students.
Uh-huh. So there will be training programs for the teachers who are listening to us?
Definitely. There'll be training programs for the teachers.
Yeah.
We have started some of that already.
Good.
And we do have training for teachers scheduled for later on, February, March, in that regard.
Right. And what about at the higher levels that you mentioned?
At the higher level, that is a different situation where, of course, we need to really sharpen the skills over the past. There are students who haven't interfaced with practical science activities for a long period.
They haven't been into a lab.
And plus. So currently, the teachers are working. We do have a number of workshops engaging the Science Teachers Association, because that's one of the best ways that we have found that works. So we build capacity among the teachers across Jamaica in terms of the regions where we have a Science Teachers Association functioning and taking responsibility. We do workshops and so on. So it's really a capacity building.
Yes.
That capacity building of our teachers with the hope that we can translate that into student activity and student learning in the shortest possible time.
Yes. But Dr. Benjamin, just a dream. The Ministry of Education has done so well, our diaspora listeners should know, in creating platforms on television for educational uplift. Suppose you had the best science teachers, people like Mr. Bennett and others, who were actually going through the syllabus, and if this was on free-to-air television or cable television, you think that would make up for some of the deficiencies?
Well, any opportunity that we can provide our students for extend learning,
yes,
certainly would make a difference. And we actually do have some resources that are, well, not on free to air, but available 24 hours a day.
Right.
And I think as we work our way to making more of those available on a free-to-air setting,
Yes.
certainly I would encourage students and parents to take hold of that opportunity as
Sure.
well.
It's not quite the same as being sitting in the lab with an expert teacher, but it is as close as we can get in the present circumstances. And if I can go back and hear that lesson, that lab experience over and over again, I'm sure it will be to the students' advantage.
Yes, it would.
Yes.
Definitely.
Wow.
Definitely.
So, wow. So the homework program is going to, the extra lessons program is going to begin when?
We begin on Monday.
Monday coming?
Monday coming.
Yes.
Schools have actually started registration already. We've asked them to register their students, so we have a sense of how many students will be accessing the program.
Mm-hmm.
And we begin teaching delivery actually on Monday.
And the
so
teachers
we're ready to go.
The teachers will be recruited from within the schools, or
for the face-to-face component,
Right.
the teachers will be recruited from within their schools, and then online, our partners will identify and deploy the teachers accordingly, because they will have both asynchronous and synchronous opportunities. So
Yeah.
they'll have opportunities to go on their own time, but there'll be live online sessions available for them to access on the various platforms as well.
Mrs. Witter-Bailey, is the emphasis going to be, understandably it would be, but I want to know for sure, is it going to be for the students who have exams pending, like the grade 6 students preparing for PEP, or the CSEC students in grade 11? Or is it a general program for all grades pretty much equally? What do you think?
It's a general program for all grades.
Yes.
Yes, we will pay, well, I wouldn't even say pay special attention, because all grades are a part of the program.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not necessarily only for the exam cohort of students. It is available to all students.
Right.
All students, because if you're not in the exam cohort this year, next year you
Sure.
probably will be.
Sure.
So we can't leave you out. So it is open and available to all students generally.
Yes. Dr. Benjamin, as far as we know now, the PEP exams and the Caribbean Examination Council exams are going to be on schedule. There's been no remit of extra time, has there been?
Not to my knowledge, but I know Mrs. Witter-Bailey can give you more information about the timeline.
Wonderful.
for
Yes,
that.
good. Can you tell us, Mrs. Witter-Bailey, because I think many people are anxious to know whether they're going to get a bly with more time.
No, well, we would have sent out the term date since last August, and there have
That's on the
been
PEP.
no. We have, yes, regarding the PEP exams, the administration of the PEP exams,
Right.
and those dates remain intact up to today. So we have not moved them. I know initially the CBT, the curriculum-based exams for PEP 6 would have been a little earlier,
Yes.
but because of the pandemic and so on, we would have pushed it back
Back.
as far as we could, which is
Yes.
the end of April,
Yes.
because we still have to consider that students, the papers need to be processed, and scores have to be processed in order to give results, and results need to be given in a timely manner so that parents can prepare, find out which school the student is going to, get their uniforms together, and so on.
Right.
For the next school year. So with all of that being considered, we had pushed it down from even before to the farthest that we could.
Okay. Mr. Bennett, I want to press you, if I may. So I think I know what's in the mind of many of our listeners. Is it really possible to teach science well in the virtual space?
Okay. No, that's a challenge that we have been dealing with. And so far, we've found various ways of doing it. There are some practical skills where the development of those practical skills may have been hindered, in that we would not have been able to achieve those. But in terms of development of many of the other skills,
Yes.
Skills of reasoning, skills of assessing data, skills of interpretation, and so on, we have been able to do that to a large extent. And it's a worldwide situation. So when we look at our counterparts in other places and so on, we have had the similar challenge.
Yes.
The route taken. We have used simulations. We have used diagrams and, various methods,
yes,
online strategies.
Yes.
And it has worked to some extent.
Good.
For the in-depth skill acquisition, yes, we have suffered a dent in that. But I presume we'll just have to adjust the system, pivot and balance.
Yes.
Some of the things that students would not do at, face-to-face in a pre-university course,
right,
then they might have to make that kind of adjustment to give the students the experience because they never had that in their final years of high school.
Well, there's a follow-up question then. So are our examiners going to be accommodating to that reality? And can they do so, do you think, without diluting the end product?
Well, CXC has made much adjustment in terms of that.
Oh,
so, for example, in the SBAs,
is it good?
Yes, there were decisions as to how many of the labs were to be done. So we had a reduction in terms of the numbers.
Yes.
And so on. So reduction in terms of numbers means reduction in the skills that would have been assessed at different points.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that to work with. I think it is still challenging for some teachers because you still have to get the students in school and through the routine. But to a large extent, our teachers have been managing in terms of getting students exposed to those numbers of manipulative labs that are required by CXC.
Well, so much
the reduction in number has done a lot.
Yes, so much hands on that, because we don't want students to be prejudiced, and at the same time, we don't want them to go ahead with inadequate foundation. If a medical student, for example, Mr. Bennett, doesn't have the proper foundation in the natural sciences because of the deficiencies of the time, and that person is going to face medical studies or dentistry or any of those engineering, that we have a problem that we need to overcome, eh?
Yes, and I think that again, when in terms of pivoting the system, that is something that we have to look forward to.
Right.
So, for example, like our colleagues in the tertiary sector now,
yes,
we'll have to really look at some of those deficiencies that could have developed and impacted students, yes, and then within the early years, try to build on those skills, because the pivoting has to take place right across the system.
That's an important point. Dr. Benjamin, the extra lessons industry, I think I can fairly call it that in Jamaica, is big business, A previous incumbent as Minister of Education years ago estimated its value at about $20 billion a year. Is the government's program intended to supplement or supplant the private extra lesson industry?
We are trying to provide an opportunity for students,
yes,
without cost. This is at a cost to the government.
No, that's important. It's without cost. These extra lessons
to the students.
No parents don't have to pay. Students don't have to pay.
Parents do not have to pay.
Important.
Right? So this is the cost of the ministry.
Right.
And the key really is that we know that students access extra lessons privately, but many times it's those who can.
Yes.
And so we're trying to make sure that we provide that opportunity right now to those who may not be able to afford it on their own.
Very good.
And so that's our goal. Mm-hmm. If there are parents who, and of course, every child is different. So there may be those parents who recognize the need and their children access the extra lessons program through the school, but they may still find that they may need additional tutoring, and we encourage them. This is really trying to catch up on a serious a period of time. We would have lost almost 2 years of really direct instruction in the school setting, and so we really need to have all hands on deck. Whatever additional time our students need, we would encourage parents to grab hold of it.
How long is the program going to go on for, please?
We are prepared to run straight to the end of the school year currently.
May need some more,
and then we'll reassess, and I'm sure once the need is identified, we'll move forward for September 1.
Mrs.
But we'll
Witter-Bailey,
reassess at the end of this school year.
yes, Mrs. Witter-Bailey, mention was made of the diagnostic tests that have been administered to children. Does a parent have the right to know the results of that diagnostic test of their child?
Yes, they absolutely do. And they can get that information through the school.
Okay.
And yes, they can go to the school and request, because when those diagnostic test results were processed and were analyzed, they were sent to the schools. The results of each student who did the diagnostic test, they were sent to the school. So they can access the information through their school.
When was that diagnostic test done? Some months ago?
Yes, in 2021, last year,
Yeah.
May and June of
Right.
2020.
Okay, well, a lot of water has gone under the bridge since then, eh? So that it's very important that we should see what was disclosed, then what was found, and then make further allowance as we go ahead. Is that a fair comment?
Yes,
Absolutely. And I would want to add that allowance can be based on school-based assessments that would have been done,
Yes.
considering teaching and learning has been going on since September.
Yes.
For those who are accessing online,
Yes.
once they log in to register, there is an opportunity that will be provided for an additional assessment to be done. And then the intervention will be very targeted
Yes.
to the needs that would have been
That's
identified.
very comforting, because what we want to do is to alert our parents here and elsewhere to insist that they follow through on that process, so that it's not a run-of-the-mill thing. It is
Right.
it is the particular needs of every individual child.
Exactly.
Yes, but then
Yes, has to be very targeted.
yes, but then Mrs. Witter-Bailey, help me on this one. I'm very concerned, as I know you are and the ministry is, about the special needs children. They're the ones who might have had the greatest difficulty during this time accessing virtual learning, etc. Do you think we have the skill? Can we assure those listening to us that they're special needs children, and there are so many of them, will get the particular peculiar attention that they need? Please reassure us.
Yes, I am reassuring the nation that our special needs students will get the attention they need. We have an entire unit dedicated to special education, catering to the needs of students with special needs. And they work very hard out there in the schools and on the ground to ensure they monitor and they ensure that the students who are students with special needs will get whatever help or support that they need. They have programs in place to help with that support, and the reassurance is there that they will not be left out. They are included and considered in all programs and plans that we develop,
Yes.
and they are catered to.
Well, that's very good. Mr. Bennett, I want to know, you mentioned the Science Teachers Association. Is that an active, large group? Is there a special appeal that can be made to them? Because they're going to be pivotal in helping the makeup. Parents will especially want to know how available they can be for this. How do you see it from your perch?
All right. Well, the association serves all the science teachers. So we have participation of virtually all our science teachers across Jamaica. We recently did a workshop in which CXC participated. It ended up being a very large workshop with participants from other Caribbean territories that we didn't expect.
Really?
But they were able to join into the platform and so on.
Good.
And even recently, other territories have been asking for the recording because some of their teachers were unable to join and they heard of the activity. So yes, the Association of Science Teachers has a significant reach in Jamaica, where we are able to reach all the schools and all the teachers at this point in time.
Okay. And have you been getting the support from the teachers? Sometimes they have their own challenges, you know?
Yes, since COVID started and schools went off face-to-face, the association has found various ways to train teachers. So there was significant amount of training at all levels. The WhatsApp groups were active, so there are over 14 ASTJ WhatsApp groups in terms of subject groups,
really?
Primary specialists, and all the areas, Cape Sciences, and so on.
That's impressive.
And there is that kind of interaction across the groups. people will share, the groups are alive 24/7.
Yes.
So we share as specialists, the education officers who participate in the group share with the teachers. So we have a very good connection developing from that, which I think was necessitated to a large extent by the current pandemic situation.
Sure.
So yes, we have our teachers on board, and we have the reach in relation to the training and mobilization of activities.
Right. Dr. Benjamin, this is a good response. I'm wondering, are we looking at best practices in other countries? All the world has been affected by COVID. Are other people doing the same things we are doing? Are there lessons to learn from perhaps some of the comparable instances we have access to?
We've definitely looked at what has happened in other countries. We've actually reviewed some of the international reports. I believe UNESCO, World Bank,
yes,
and others have done reports, and they've basically compiled some of the practices being utilized across the world. Clearly, we've had to look at them and consider the Jamaican context and the uniqueness of the Jamaican context, because in some situations, access to online learning would have been at a pretty high rate, while we may have had a challenge. So our response, I haven't necessarily seen anybody doing anything like we've done with the Extra Lessons program, but our response would have been considering what we know to be the limited access of some of our students, particularly in the deep rural areas, may have had to online instruction. And so this is our way of ensuring that we provide them with that additional support. But we have consulted all of the reports.
I like the Extra Lessons approach and the homework approach, because it engrafts itself in the particular urgent time that we are in now. It engrafts itself on a culture that we already know. And right. that is very important, for receptivity. But Mrs. Witter-Bailey, help me. Time running out. We have to spend the time to understand this. It's so crucial. Minister Williams was heard to say a week or two ago that perhaps 40% of our children really haven't been in touch yet. How I know the yard-to-yard project is underway, but it seems to me that there's a special need to offer Extra Lessons homework assistance to those students whose attendance in one iteration or another has been very sporadic. Can we go after those? Can we give them what the Americans call affirmative action, Mrs. Witter-Bailey?
Well, we're definitely, as you mentioned, using whatever strategy we can, various strategies to really get into the communities and identify those students or find those students who have not shown up for some time. And so it is a challenge, admittedly. Clearly, it's something that, and it's not only here, as Dr. Benjamin would have said, in other reports all around the world, we're all having the same issues. But we are committed to using whatever strategy we can to ensure that we find our students and get them enrolled back in school. We will not stop until we find every single student that we have. So we are dependent on the yard to yard, and we are encouraging the members of our community to come out and report if there is a child that you see somewhere that should not be there, or in the community just being idle all day. We also depend on the citizens to help us to find
Indeed, every church pastor, every justice of the peace, every policeman needs to bring those children and young people in. Yes, and then they need to be given special attention. Not a whole heap of cussing. Why I couldn't find you? Where you never come for? Just embrace them and try to pick them up from where they are. Dr. Benjamin, a question for you: is there some evaluative component of this Extra Lessons and homework program? Are there ways in which you're going to see by the end of the academic year, for example, how successful, how effective it has been?
So our monitoring and evaluation units will provide that level of support. And of course, we will have to look at where our students started.
Yes.
And again, at some point, assess where they are. This will not necessarily look the same for every child, because remember, the gaps may vary. And that's one of the things about using the online resource. It will be targeted, and certainly at the school level.
Right.
Teachers will be able to create their assessment tools. We also have built into the mechanism a monthly reporting system for teachers to give us updates on the progress of the students. And we intend to use that data to monitor what is happening on the ground and identify points for which additional support may be required.
I'm squeezing this one in. Somebody asking me to ask you, is the grade 4 test going to be administered this year? And is that, you really have to do that, miss, after all the time we've lost?
Yes, there has been some loss of time, but remember that the students have to matriculate. They can't just stop where they are. So a part of testing is identifying exactly where the students are on the learning continuum, and giving us data and opportunities to provide the any intervention that is needed for the students. So it's not only for just to test them, but we need to really see where they are. But yes, the answer to the question is yes, the grade 4 will be administered this year. The scheduled dates are June 29 and June 3rd.
Okay,
good
to hear that. People can adjust themselves. And then now I have the final appeal. I'm strongly supporting all that you've said. Glad to hear from you. Think it's informative. But I beg you, if a child has not caught up sufficiently, please do not propel them up the line into the next grade when they can't manage your work there. Can I beg for that big statement of policy? Dr. Benjamin, you're it.
Well, I'm not the creator of policy, Reverend Bates, but I'm sure that this is something that we'll be considering as we continue to work together. How do we treat students that we recognize at the end of this year are still behind? And this is something that we will definitely continue to take into consideration as we plan for the next.
Even if they have to squeeze up in class for a while, even if we have to short the holidays a bit, let us make sure that we really catch up, and then we can what was the introductory song? The Caterpillars Can Fly. Dr. Benjamin, Mrs. Witter-Bailey, Mr. Bennett, thank you so much for Educate Jamaica today. We're obliged to you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Good then. Good. Educate Jamaica, a unique feature on the public eye on the bridge. Yes? And listen to all the information you got. Get your children out of school. Help them to take the government-supported extra lessons. Help them to do their homework, even if you don't understand it. Yes? I wouldn't be able to understand the science, but I want to sit down and make sure that for my picnic them are doing the work, asking the questions. Put it on the air, put it on the TV, so that if you never catch the lesson, you can hear it again and again and again. Isn't that what we're going to do? A big national effort now to ensure that everybody catches up in education and can do well. If caterpillars can fly, so can I. The public eye on the Bridge 99. Let me tell you, I love when advertisement gives the public information, not just an encouragement to buy something, but gives them good information, and companies can recommend themselves to many of us who listen more keenly when there's some real unique benefit. I love that piece from the Ministry of Health about if the uniform that the picnic wear to school have to wear a second or a third day. Some people would say, what? No, you have to wear it a second or third day. That is the truth for 90% of us. So what they say, turn it inside out and put it to sun out. I think most of us know, certainly the mothers and the grandmothers know how to do that. Yes. And that's the important thing. Because you don't have 3 uniforms to wear a week, don't mean you don't go to school, or don't mean that you have to feel that you're somehow lesser. Concentrate the money on the things that will help you to fill up your brain. Don't worry about the stush school bag or the bashment sneakers. Yeah? I see a lot of children now presently in school, particularly primary school children, and it's slippers they're walking with. Yeah? And I know why. it is because they grow out of the shoes where they have. Yeah, and the parents cannot afford, because the short notice in January to go back to school, they cannot afford it. Yet, the barrel don't come, or the Western Union or what, mail pack don't bring it. Bring the wherewithal. There is nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Yes? You're not to shame because of those things. Your pants foot might be like Manasseh, but wear it and go anywhere. Yes? Saw one school in the country yesterday I was visiting, and there were some of the girls were in their casual clothes. No shorts and tear up jeans business. I don't know where you get that from. Jeans good, and the picnic, cut it up, and that's supposed to be fashion. Well, that is stupidness. But anyway, but what I'm saying is that what I have appreciated, I took it as a mark of success and honor that those children, despite the fact that they didn't have the uniform, were still coming out to school. Yes? And again, the hairstyle, I beg you, what is important is what is in your head, not what is on your head. That is a very important thing. So let us be sure that what we're doing is to be very, very appreciative and conservative of education. I love the news that the nutrition products is going to start up again. I won't comment on some of the other aspects of it which came out so adversely. But the important thing is that we feed our children. When I see any agency with public support or private a gift, they're saying nutrition products that they want to ramp up to be able to serve 100,000 breakfasts a day. That's wonderful. The only problem with that is it needs to be 300,000, because easily half of our school population need to have some additional nutrition available to them at in the mornings when they go to school. Hello, you cannot take 2 buses to school and reach in time and have had enough to eat. Yes? Even if your parents carrying you in a car. I think of all those people. Diaspora, listen to me. You know Kingston and St. Andrew, you know where people live. And now I'm looking, for example, at people who live in Spanish Town, Old Harbour, and beyond. People who live on the St. Thomas side or the St. Catherine side and have to come into Kingston. You have to wake up early, you know. You know, provision can be made. Mothers know how to do that. But at the same time, offer every child a nutritional supplement called breakfast in the morning. It does not have to be fancy. It does not have to be expensive. So I'm really not sure about this divestment of nutrition products because some of that food can best be pre-prepared. The rest of the food, like lunch, can no doubt be provided for in many schools. But I told the Early Rise listeners and my colleague, Honorable Pernell Charles, about the very excellent primary school that I'm familiar with, that's in the month of January alone spent $250,000 on patty. Now, patty is nice. Everybody like a Jamaican like a patty. You might start water where you are in Winnipeg or in Edinburgh. Yeah, okay, for a good Jamaican patty. But patty is not the best nutritional input that we can offer to our children. Yes, not every day. Neither is fried chicken and chips. So we have to get serious now about what we're doing to put our children in a position, a frame of mind, a frame of body, a frame of spirit, where they are going to be able to benefit from that pearl of great price, a quality education. Nothing else can be more important than that. So I'm really making an appeal, and I'm reiterating what was said by the officials of the Ministry of Education on Educate Jamaica. You know, it's a feature they come up with, and we are very, very pleased to host it. And it is perhaps the most important thing that we do on Bridge Nation or on Public Eye, certainly, because we are setting the focus, we are aligning the values to what really makes sense for upliftment of the human spirit, the human mind, the human good fortune of the people of Jamaica. That's what makes the difference. Early childhood education, on to quality primary education, on to meaningful secondary education, and then you're gone clear. The caterpillar, the human caterpillar, to mix the metaphors, will fly. We'll soon come back on the public eye. When we do, we join Irie Jam Radio and Beau-regard in the tri-state area of the United States, the bridge to the world. Beau, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Thwaites. How's everything?
I'm fine, thank you. You're burning with coal up there?
No, not really. After the snow that we had over the weekend, the snow is starting to melt. Right. And we are warming up right now at 42 degrees today. They're saying rain tomorrow and Friday. Yeah. That's a good thing because it will wash away some of the snow, but we're not getting too excited because by Saturday we're back to about 16 degrees.
Boy, I tell you, it's a real winter you're having, eh?
Yeah, a real one. But also today is Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. What's the significance of Groundhog Day, Beau?
Well, for my fellow Jamaicans, they're in Jamaica, here in the U.S. and also in Canada. If there's a little furry animal that comes out on this day each year, and it signifies whether you will have 6 more weeks of winter or if we'll not have any winter. So the animal actually came out today and he saw a shadow, and whenever he sees a shadow, that means 6 more weeks of winter. So we're not out of the clear as yet.
Boy, try your best here, man. We're so glad for you. We sympathize with you at the same time. Yes, never mind. What's happening among your listeners? What are they thinking of? What are their concerns that we can match during this time?
Well, we're here celebrating Black History Month.
Yeah, man.
And
Reggae Month too.
Also Reggae Month. True indeed. Yesterday we also celebrated the Crown Prince of Reggae, Dennis Emmanuel Brown's
65th birthday.
Yes, indeed. And on the first day of Black History Month, we saw where we were getting some historically black colleges and universities had received some bomb threats on the very first day of Black History Month. So now the FBI has gotten involved, and they are assessing the situation and working with local law enforcement to address potential threats.
You think they're serious? Well, let me put it positively. I hope that they're very serious about this, because this is a resurgence of stuff that used to happen in the 50s. And before then, these are ghosts of we would call them duppies of Jim Crow. We don't need that again, Beau.
No, we don't. Not in this day and age, and especially you might say it might be a deliberate thing, being that the first day of Black History Month. You don't know what's going on. You have to investigate.
No, but when you saw it, though, when they showed the map last night, even on Jamaican television, you saw the incidents in the various colleges around several states. That can't be coincidental, Beau-regard.
No.
I mean, I wish it were, but that can't be coincidental. That is a planned thing, and it is a warning shot of the resurgence of a horrible evil in America. And I hope that people will take it seriously.
Yes, I hope so. Hopefully the president, can also help with a lot of the things that we're doing. He just went over his first 100 days in office. And now a lot of people are, assessing his first 100 days to see how.
Plenty more than 100 days. But I agree with you. They look his first year in office, and the key thing now, which we're going to discuss with Professor Basil Wilson when we get him on the line shortly. I hope you're listening to it and help us with the discourse. Is he reaching? Is his agenda being fulfilled, or in fact, is it crashing?
He's still trying, and he's still struggling with a lot of the people in the Senate and Congress, and most of the things that we saw that he has done in his first 100 days in office. He has signed about close to 60 executive orders so far, and about 20-something of those have been direct reversals of Donald Trump's policies. He has dealt with coronavirus, he has dealt with national security, the economy. He's also dealt with the environment, climate change. He's dealt with health care, immigration being one of them as well. So he's doing what he's supposed to do, and I think his approval rating might go up as this year goes along.
Well, I hope so. But it's interesting. There seem to be many people on the liberal side of American politics, Beau, who are shaking their heads and kind of writing off Joe Biden. If they do that, they're likely to get a real bulla, as we would say, if the other man gets stronger as a result, So you have to make sure you don't cut your nose to spite your face. Don't you know that saying?
Yes, I know that one.
Yeah.
Very well.
So he hasn't been able to get the bill back, agenda bill. He hasn't been able to stop the voting rights thing. But if you're going to take that and cuss him to the point, or withdraw support to the point where you don't vote, or you're half-hearted in your support, guess what? Guess who's going to win?
Yes.
No, it's just serious. It's just serious.
It is.
I feel very inadequate. I'm not an American citizen. I'm an admirer of the American system, and have many close relatives who live there. But I'm taking liberty with you and saying, we have to face up clearly. Biden is the best that you got, and only black people, Caribbean people, Latinos can't carry the swing in America yet, you know.
No, well, one of the good things that we see that he's getting ready to do is to try to assign a new Supreme Court judge, and it should be the first black female Supreme Court judge.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to that.
Yes.
So which is why I'm saying, as this year goes along, his approval rating should go up some more.
But his approval rating has to go up among white people too, you know. They have to vote for the Democratic cause as well. Don't?
Yes, true indeed.
Let's pause and let's invite Professor Basil Wilson of John Jay College, the graduated Thwaites man of Jamaica, to join us. Prof, how are you?
Good afternoon, Reverend Thwaites.
I have to give you all your credits, you know.
St. George's.
Yes. Listen, there's a North Street mafia that wouldn't understand. Beau-regard at Irie Jam is a George's boy, you know, so you're outnumbered entirely. Pastor, thanks so much. But I really want to ask you, what is happening to the progressive agenda in the United States? We had such hope, and now, I don't know, from this distance, it looked like Biden's agenda crashed. Is true?
Well, I wouldn't say that it has crashed. Remember now that Biden has been operating on a 50-50 Senate split. And in fact, we had the bad news overnight that the senator from Nevada has gotten a stroke and might be out of office for about a month or two.
Boy.
So it means now that the Democrats are now operating with 49 senators, and the Republicans still have 50.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as I understand it, it's a mild stroke, and he should be back in office. That should not postpone the hearings for the new member of the Supreme Court, because that gentleman was not a member of the Judiciary Committee. But that appointment will not be made until about the end of February. We expect hearings to take place for most of March, and then by the end of March, I think the appointment should have been concluded. Yeah. So I think that will energize the base.
The base of who? The base of who, Basil?
The base of the Democratic Party. As you know, Ronnie, in off-year elections, there's a tendency for the Democratic base not to come out in the numbers significant to really win convincingly. And of course, the tradition is that after a president has won, the House tends to flip to the opposition party. Hopefully there will be sufficient of what Biden has done in his 1 year, 2 years status, that the base will come out and that they will be able to maintain both the House and the Senate. If not, it means that his agenda would certainly be stalled until 2024.
You know who my heroine is in the Democratic Party? A woman named Stacy Abrams in Georgia. You know why? Because she apparently has organized a grassroots mobilization of voters. So every person who is minded to support the ideals of democracy and the practice of fair play is encouraged almost personally to go out and vote. There can be no apathy, no complacency in this thing. The forces of evil are advancing on the gates of right and justice. Am I right?
Yeah, yes, Stacey Abrams has been stupendous. I mean, her organizational skills have really made a difference in terms of the fact that the two senators from Georgia won re-election.
Yes.
In fact, Warnock is up for re-election.
Yes.
Coming up
Warnock.
in 2022, and in fact, Stacey Abrams is also running for the governorship against Brian Kemp again if he gets the nomination, and that should be an interesting race because she has really been single-handedly, plus her organization, really mobilized both the rural areas and the urban areas of Georgia.
Well,
she has played an important role.
I'm longing for her kind of person and her kind of skill in every Democratic state organization, rather than the left of the organization, which ideologically I would be close to, yapping at Biden because he's too mild and moderate, while the right of the Democratic Party looks more like the Republicans' light.
Yeah, I think the grumbling with Biden has been quite naive, in the sense that he's not a king, he's not a dictator. I mean, he can take positions, he can use the bully pulpit, but he cannot dictate to Manchin and to cinema, and trying to get them over the to really pass Build Back Better and to also pass the Voting Rights Act. So the possibility of the Build Back Better coming up aboard again is quite likely. I think it will be stripped down somewhat. But if they can get some of the key provisions of the Build Back Better passed through the Senate and through the House, that would be quite an array of bills that Biden has made, been successful in going to the electorate and really being able to mobilize the electorate over things that have really mattered in terms of improving their lives.
Last time we spoke to you, Professor Basil Wilson, you were quite confident that we would get some iteration of the Build Back Better legislation passed. When we come back from this short break, tell me, what is the basis of your optimism after the batter that we have seen? and then we also have to take you in the intervening time on the issue of inflation too, because American inflation, fueled by all of this money that has been lathered over the United States, is causing a ripple effect in the Caribbean, sir. Professor Basil Wilson linking with Beau-regard of Irie Jam and myself on the public eye. This is The Bridge, and we'll soon come back. Prof, tell me some more. Breaking in on the thread. What is America planning to do in Ukraine? If Putin had amassed troops in Cuba, as happened in the missile crisis during Kennedy's time, the West would have said, "Listen, don't come so close. This is our bailiwick." Isn't the same argument true in Ukraine?
To some extent, I think the issue that has been problematic and made it almost impossible to establish some kind of approach more with Putin is that Putin has been such an abominable international actor. I mean, he has made attempts to kill opponents outside of Russia almost every time somebody who emerges as a reputable opposition to him. He has made some attempt to poison them or to what have you. His involvement in the 2016 election was really quite unnecessary and really quite an intrusion. Yeah. But I think Putin has been, in fact, concerned about the expansion of NATO and particularly having Ukraine becoming a member of NATO.
So hold on to that right now, sir. We go hot up that situation for. You could help to stabilize Ukraine, make them stronger, deal with them. But what is happening is what Shakespeare wrote about in Henry IV. Your busy, dizzy minds with foreign quarrels while you can't solve the problems at home. I don't understand what the end game of this one is.
But I think if Putin was a much more reputable international actor. But I think that solution is really having the Ukraine becoming a neutralized entity.
Right. Yes.
That they do not become a member of NATO in terms of their economic policies, in terms of their gravitation to the West. They should be free to do that.
That's
but
fine.
They should not become a military arm of NATO.
Yes.
And I think that could satisfy the national security interests
of the West.
Of Russia.
Yes.
And I think that, one of the things that I was hoping that globalization could produce a certain level of interdependency, which would be more conducive to peaceful relationships. Take, for example, Germany's new dependency on natural gas coming from Russia. It would mean that Russia would benefit economically, the Germans would benefit in terms of having access to that kind of energy resources, and it would improve relationships between Russia and Western Europe and hopefully Eastern Europe. But that has not been forthcoming. And in fact, the winds of war that we see stirring now will be disastrous.
Absolutely.
To all concerned.
Everybody concerned. So we need to diffuse that as quickly as possible rather than ramping it up. And you put Boris Johnson in Kiev, and him loves stir up foolishness,
He does. When he's in trouble at home.
Well, that's why he's doing it abroad, sir.
Right.
It's distraction. No, but help me now, sir. My concern with President Biden and Vice President Harris is that they announce these things and they can't carry them. Yes?
You mean in terms of Build Back Better?
Build Back Better. That particular, you go and announce a $3 trillion thing, and you're going to end up with something less than $1 trillion.
Well,
and you never have the vote.
No, but recall that before Biden went to Glasgow, there was a gentleman's agreement that had been established with Senator Manchin that they would pass the Build Back Better at around 1.7 trillion. And the details had to be worked out. And in fact, what we have seen occur is that Manchin kept moving the goalposts. And because of that, things sort of broke down. But so far, the position of Manchin is that he's willing to go along with the $500 billion having to do with climate change.
Right.
And he's willing to go with some of the other important aspects of the bill, such as daycare, trying to reduce the cost of daycare
yes.
and also universal pre-kindergarten. So there are some aspects of the bill that seem to be rescuable, and I think that will be beneficial to the Democrats in terms of the 2022 elections coming up.
Yeah. Now, in what is happening in the United States, just I presumptuously looking over the transoms, is that unfortunately the racial animosity that we thought had largely been blunted is sharpened again. Why bother to trumpet this black female justice? Just nominate her quick time and done, no? Instead of making forces divide on the issue. It seems to me the public relations or the political relations are all wrong.
Well, we definitely are into something of a powder keg in terms of race relations. As you might have heard, that about 14 historically black colleges
Man, this is terrible.
Got notices early in the morning that there would have been bombings taking place on the campuses. We have also had breaking yesterday, and a black NFL coach, a coach in the National Football League, has accused the National Football League of systematic racism. And in fact, if you look, 75% of the players in the National Football League are black, but there's only presently one black coach. And that's quite typical of professional sports. I mean, you have the same thing in the English Premier League. You have 20 teams, and there's one black coach presently at Crystal Palace. So even though black players, unlike the time of Jackie Robinson, has entered professional league, they have not been in the positions of decision making in terms of ownership, in terms of managerial responsibilities, etc. And that is an example of how much racism is still quite a factor.
Yeah.
So when you look at Biden's appointing or his promise of appointing a black woman to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court is about 234 years old. Until about the genesis of the American nation, until about 1967, it was comprised exclusively of white men.
Sure, until Thurgood Marshall was appointed.
Was the first black man.
Right, and it's only been Clarence Thomas after him.
And look at Clarence Thomas. He might as well have changed his complexion.
No, there's no doubt, you know. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no doubt that Biden's choice is a righteous choice. But my point is, I was making it to Beau-regard before you came on. My point is, you cannot afford to alienate all. You need liberal white voters in order to carry the agenda, whether it is in the Senate or at the ballot box.
Definitely.
Yes.
And in fact, in the 2020 election, Joe Biden got 42% of the white vote.
Yeah.
And in fact, you know, he is from the white working class, and a lot of his policies are geared towards the white working class. I think the person in the Democratic Party, Ronnie, who has been superb in terms of appealing to the white working class and gotten massive white working class support is Sherrod Brown,
yes,
who is a senator from Ohio. And in fact, the fellow who is now running for that open seat in Ohio for the 2022 senatorial race in Ohio is Tim Ryan. And he's he's trying to run a similar race as Sherrod Brown. But I don't know if he can bring that up. If he can bring that up, he can be a serious contender and maybe win that senatorial race. But I think that is terribly important, that you appeal not just to black and brown voters, but you have to appeal to the white working class.
Yes. Well, there you go. Now, help me again before time runs out on us. The one understands how important what a rescue act the Biden administration has carried out in terms of assisting people who are about to be evicted from their house, the persons who had lost their jobs, etc. We're conscious also that the American economy is bubbling right now, but some of the inflation which is causing you a mild cold in the States is causing us some heavy pneumonia out here, you know, sir. We can't afford the food anymore.
It's also pneumonia here. I mean, it went up 7% for 2021.
We're at 9 now.
I think the predictions, you know, I mean, are that the inflation rate should be coming down, maybe with the exception of oil prices. That one of the things that has been stimulating it is not so much the injection of funding from the federal government, but in terms of the supply chain. And that has been a big factor, and hopefully some of that might be straightened out by you get to the middle of the year. Of course, the Federal Reserve now has as its responsibility, its primary responsibility, to bring down inflation. And they have indicated that they will be increasing interest rates, which will in fact increase mortgage rates, increase credit rates, and that should simmer down the economy somewhat. But there's no question that what Biden has done in terms of the increase in the lower echelons of the working people, that, you know, there was much clamor a year or two ago about making $15 the minimum wage.
Yes.
But most wages now, even though that had not become the federal minimum wage, it remains $7.25. But much of what hotel workers, much of what fast food workers are earning, it is 17 and 18 and upwards dollars, large because of the scarcity of labor.
Yes.
And in fact, that has been beneficial to people who have been struggling at the bottom for many, many years and not being able to live on wages and having to work 2 and 3 jobs. So that has been beneficial to people who might not be in the higher echelons.
No, I get you, but we get licked both sides, So from what happens with you, first of all, if inflation rises in the United States, it's going to have a knock-on effect on our prices here. Yes.
Yes.
And if the economy doesn't bubble, then the remittances are going to be cauterized, which has another immediate effect on us here. One of the truths that Jamaica has to understand is how derivative our economy is or has become to the continental economy, and we have an iron in your fire,
Well, one thing beneficial to the bubbling of the economy here is that it means that tourism will be able to recover, especially once we can, in fact, have control of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And, one of the great sectors of our economy in the last 20, 30 years has been the expansion of tourism.
Right.
But there's a question that if we could settle the issue of immigration, and there's no question that there is a shortage of labor here, that will be beneficial to the Caribbean and specifically to Jamaica in terms of increasing the numbers of Jamaicans who could travel abroad and become productive and earn wages.
But explain that for us, sir. Explain that for us.
In fact, one of the things that if you have a shortage of labor in the United States, I mean, America imports on an annual basis before the pandemic 1.2 million workers each year. And that also there's additional people who come just on H1 visas or H2 visas to work in particular areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that, as you know, has affected our situation is the surplus labor problem. So if we can, in fact, deal with some of the surplus labor by sending more and more people to the United States, it means that eases some of the demographic issues in Jamaica, and in fact will even enhance remittances.
But is that likely, Basil?
Well, the problem with immigration is, and you have this conflict between the economic need and the political fears, because one of the fears of the Republican Party is that immigrants tend, because they are now black and brown, not comprised of white Europeans, but they tend invariably to gravitate to the Democratic Party. It constitutes a threat to them.
Yes.
But hopefully that might be overcome. But if we can return to this whole notion of remittances, there's no question that the poor community, irrespective of what is going on in the economy, has remained committed to remittances and helping out as much as possible from the standpoint of families, individuals.
Hello. If it wasn't for the increase in remittances, the Jamaican dollar would be over 200 to 1. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Yeah. And so we have to be respectful, and we have to understand the dynamics that are at stake there. Anytime there is a need for workers in the United States, and the immigration system will allow it, plenty people grip back already, Doc.
Yeah, I know. I know.
So,
and in fact, a lot. I mean, one of the things that you see.
Yes.
I mean, it's part of Build Back Better.
Yes.
Is that home care would be expanded to the elderly.
Yes.
And one of the things that
prepare for that.
Caribbean women have found a niche in the labor market
home care.
In terms of home care.
Nanny and home care. Before you go, sir, if any politician in Jamaica had done half of the things which it is now being disclosed that Donald Trump do, he would have gone Spanish Town jail, Dr. Wilson.
Definitely.
What a wicked man. The man foments. Yes. I mean, he's in the class of Claudius Henry.
Almost. At least to understand we went to prison.
Yes.
You know?
But this man looking to become president again.
Well, you know, I think it shows the shallowness of his political background. He does not understand the Constitution. He does not even understand the norms of American politics. But one of the things that I think what Donald Trump has done has made it possible is that the American political system, the American democratic system, the American electoral process is too complex, too elaborate. When you look at the electoral college, when we vote for a president and a vice president, we don't really vote for them, you know. We vote for electoral college members.
Yeah.
So we go through this song and dance where if we were just a normal democracy as such, Trump would not be able to undergo its authoritarian, anti-democratic antics.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we need to do is to streamline the American political system that it becomes more authentically a democratic system.
But you can't even, I don't wish to be pessimistic and certainly not scornful, but you can't even deal with the filibuster.
We can't, unfortunately. And remember
Which
now,
is the most anti-democratic parliamentary process that I have ever heard about. When you have a majority, you can't exercise it.
But even worse than that, the Senate itself.
Yes, sir.
But when you give each state two votes, irrespective of the population, that in itself is grossly undemocratic.
Of course, the two states, like North Dakota or Montana.
Yes,
and then where you are in New York City, one borough will have more people than for them whole state.
Brooklyn is 2.7 million people.
Look at
New York State is over 18 to 20 million.
Yes.
California is over 43 million.
Yes.
And a state like West Virginia is 1.9 million. And they have the same representation in the Senate as California or New York.
And he will go on bad and frustrate everybody. Prof. Wilson, hold on 1 minute for me. Beau-regard, what you're hearing, we have to go change up the system. I wonder if we have the power to do so. We have the wit. Soon come. This is the Public Eye. Prof. Wilson, tell me then, what is likely to be the outcome of this January 6th commission? Is it an entirely partisan outcome that's likely? And is Trump going to be called to book for threatening again today that he would bring violence in order to achieve power? Because that's what we're hearing. What do you think?
Yeah, he spoke in Texas over the weekend. He had those threats. But I think the January 6th committee has really done an exceptional job. I think Liz Cheney and Kissinger have made it much more bipartisan than if it was just comprised of Democrats.
Sure.
They intend to hold public hearings beginning in the spring, and they intend to sort of outline the narrative showing quite clearly and profoundly and meticulously how Trump really conspired to, in fact, overthrow the democratic system and to perpetuate himself in office.
But do 45% of Americans care about that? They seem to feel he incarnates their values and is their defense against rising black power, Latin power, what they call socialism in any event. Does it matter?
Well, I think one of the possibilities of having the open hearings, especially in prime time, is that more and more Americans will become aware of what took place. Right. One of the things about a democratic society is that everybody's entitled to vote, but not everybody accumulates the knowledge to vote intelligently, unfortunately. And I think that if you can get this information out, there are already signs that Trump's support, even in the Republican Party, has begun to decline. That the kind of support for him to run in 2024 has, in fact, been reduced somewhat. Right. That most Republicans would prefer to see somebody else running. So I think, based upon the hearings that are now taking place in the grand jury in Georgia about his interference in the presidential elections in Georgia. The situation in Manhattan, the district attorney's office, about the criminal activities that his companies could have been engaged in. And I think the criminal referrals that the January 6th committee will in fact send to the Department of Justice, I think it is quite likely that Trump will be indicted. I think the evidence is overwhelming. I don't see how he can escape not being indicted, and I think that has to have a damaging impact on his whole, on the people who are in fact supportive of it.
But Prof, it's not pressing, you know. I understand that, and I follow your analysis. But what concerns me is that there has been a huge lurch to the right by Middle America, and that with Trump especially, but even without Trump, if he falls on his own swords, you have there is a resurgence of racism. There's a tolerance of inequality. There is a nativism that appears to be deeply ingrained, and I'm wondering how the liberal cause and the truth, not the woke liberal, the real liberal cause, people who defend human rights and one man, one vote, all of those good things, yes, education for all. How you survive?
I think one of the things that Trump did is that he was able to corral all the fringe elements, all the racist elements, all people representing the lost cause of the Confederacy. He has brought them under the umbrella of the Republican Party. And there's no question that they have become quite a political force in contemporary America. But what I take is when I look at the 2020 election, which brought out more Americans to vote than any other presidential election in American history. Biden won the election by over 8 million votes.
Really?
So there's still that sense of decency in America. And I think that if the January the 6th committee does its job well, I don't think there's any great sympathy in the United States, at least not a majority of Americans, to abandon democracy and set up some kind of authoritarian system. I don't think they will be sympathetic, the majority of Americans, to somebody who's running a criminal enterprise. So I think there is room for that level of decency to emerge and to remain the majority force in the United States. I think that was a manifestation of the 2020 election, but there's no question the American electorate is quite volatile, and we have the danger of inflation. There's no question that inflation can be a danger, as it was in Germany in the 1920s and in the 1930s. That led to the rise of the Nazi forces and the collapse of the Weimar Republic. But I think that where we stand now, the Democratic Party is the majority party in the United States. If it were not for gerrymandering and the undemocratic nature of the Senate, the Democratic Party would be able to exercise power and be able, in fact, to improve the standard of living and the safety net of the American populace. That would, in fact, further strengthen what they represent. As Biden said in his press conference a couple of weeks ago, what does the Republican Party represent? What do they represent? In fact, they represent nothing but cancel culture and, in fact, racism. And, in fact, they just breed fear into the Republic.
Prof. Wilson, listen, thank you so much. That's an optimistic summary. We're glad for your appraisal. Hold the fort, and we call on you from time to time for an update. Much obliged for today.
And thank you for inviting me, Ronnie.
All the best. On the bridge, Professor Basil Wilson of John Jay College in New York, sober, mature commentator on the American scene as it affects us, Caribbean people, Jamaican people living in the States or on the rock here. So, Beau-regard, what do you think of what Prof. Wilson say?
Stuff there he talked about, I still believe that, Trump thinks that Mike Pence caused him the election. And that, he could have overturned the election by returning the votes to be recertified.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that Trump is really going off about right now.
Yeah, but what I'm looking to hear is from a man like Pence now, who was was the biggest lackey to Trump, yes, and who now Trump turned it back on and accused him. I don't hear Pence supposed to stand up now and say, listen, American people, conservative people, Republican people, this man is a madman.
And Trump's want the January 6th committee to investigate Mike Pence right now as well.
Oh my God, I didn't hear that.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
So when what you see, my worry is not it's clear what kind of nut job and worse Mr. Trump is. But when so much people refuse to call him out and in fact follow him, Beau-regard not right?
No, it's not.
Yes.
I don't know why Mike Pence hasn't been saying anything or been more vocal.
And it's not him one. I mean, there are decent people in the Republican establishment, and they're not all Proud Boys, and yet what is it that they are saying? They look like they're still looking over their shoulder at Trump before they even choose a candidate for this or that seat in the Congress in November coming.
Well, I believe that, sometimes maybe you don't want to make the Democratic Party feel too powerful over them, so they might be, just holding out and not saying anything rather than to make the Democratic Party feel like they're going against their party.
Or if at that, then I would understand better. But hello, one of the things that we have to do, we have to do it when we go abroad, and we have to dance at a yard. We have to stand up for some principle, B.
Yes.
And what it is turning out that Mr. Trump was doing before and on January the 6th, 2021, that's not right, man. That's not principle. That is criminal behavior.
One of the worst days in U.S. history, as they're now calling it.
I tell you, and some people, him says tourists that they go to run down the Congress. What a thing, eh? Truth is distorted. Let's keep the flag of truth and reality and progressivism and decency alive. That's what we do on Irie Jam Radio and on the Bridge 99 FM. Beau, thanks so much for your company. Looking forward to next week already.
I'm also looking forward to it, sir. And we're also waving the flag of Jamaica, because them take on Costa Rica today, the Reggae Boys.
Boy, we're hoping for the best, you hear?
Yeah, big them up. And also to the bobsled team, big them up, and prayers and well wishes to them in
Boy,
Beijing.
I tell you, you're just rounding it out for me. Thanks so much.
All right,
good.
Take care.
This is the end of the Public Eye for this week. Thanks so much for all those who have made the program possible. Yes, thanks for the kind of discussion that we've had with Minister of Education, Dr. Tamika Benjamin, Mrs. Stacy Witter-Bailey, Mr. Sadpha Bennett, and, of course, Professor Basil Wilson, and all those who have made it possible from the local end here and with our, our brethren at Irie Jam in New York. Check you next week. Till then, take care.